listening to The Motherhood Experience, a podcast where you are a part of the conversation with moms, for moms, and by moms. Let's jump into this episode with me, your host, Val Kleppen. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Motherhood Experience podcast. So glad to have you joining me today as I visit with my friend, Whitney Nordvold. Now, I just want to say up front here, as you listen to this conversation, you'll hear me say that Whitney is a counselor and a coach. And if you find that you would like to connect with her, I have linked her contact information in the show notes. So be sure to check that out if you would like to connect with Whitney. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy this conversation and that it encourages you. And now, on to the episode. I am so pleased to have with me here today my friend Whitney Nordvold from right here in town. Whitney, how are you?
I am well. I am recovering.
As am I.
Yeah, it's going around pretty bad. So,
yeah. And I say right here in town, but you actually live like 25 miles from me. But
yeah,
around these parts, that here counts as town.
That's right. Yes. Close by.
Yeah. So I would love for you to share with the listeners the ages and stages of kids and kind of where you're at in motherhood these days.
Okay. Well, I have 6 children and my oldest is 14 and he's in public school for the first time in many years, in high school this year, and he's into theater and kind of starting to dabble in girls, which is fun. And then my middle son is 12 and he stays really busy with sports. He's just finished wrestling season and we'll move into baseball season soon. And he rodeos in the summer. He's rides steers for 4-H, so we do that. And then I have twins that are 7, and one of them is a gymnast, and one of them just hasn't found her thing quite yet, and they're just sweet as ever. And then I have my youngest daughter, Bronte. I didn't say any of their names, I guess. They kind of cool names.
You know what? Bronte gets to be first. Yeah, probably doesn't happen a lot.
No. Yeah. So they're Gunnar, Axel, Uriah, and Aquila. And then Bronte's my youngest daughter. And she's 5, and she's a firecracker and super duper sweet, tiny and cute, and you know. And then Brazos is 4. He's my youngest. He's my baby. Yes, I'm done. In case any people ask that. Yes, I have retired from such things. And he's so sweet. And he's the cherry on top. He's a perfect last baby.
Those youngest boys, there's something about them that they're just exceptionally sweet, I feel like.
Yes, he was a good baby, and he's funny, and he's witty, and looks just like his dad. And it's like they look less like me. Like Gunnar looks very much like me, and then as they were born, they just look less like me and more like my husband, more like Kelsey.
I don't know about that. Maybe it depends on the day, maybe.
Yeah, or who they're with, maybe, or
that's
like
it too.
My mother-in-law sees like only their family in all of my kids. Like, okay, I just grew them, and they don't look anything like me, but whatever.
So in your early days, did you know like I'm gonna have a big family? I'm gonna be that mom with a lot of kids.
No. I always wanted to have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. Like that was just like, and I did.
Even down to the 2 boys and a girl, you know?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I always thought I was going to have 3 kids. I don't know where that number came from or what I thought that would be like. Me and my brother are 10 years apart, and then I have a younger sister. We have different moms. She's 9 years younger than me. So like I was pretty much an only child, so I don't know what I thought it was like to have a bunch of kids. But after we had Axel, our middle son, we lost a baby. We had a miscarriage early on, and I didn't realize how bad I wanted to have any more kids until I lost that baby. And then I was like, wow, I guess I really want to do this. And then came the twins. There was a 4-year gap between Axel and the twins, and then came the twins, and then I was like, I want more. And then I had another one 18 months later, and then another one 19 months later. So the last 4 kiddos are like bam, 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 really close together. Yeah.
Do you have twins on either side of your family, or was?
Yeah, my dad's an identical twin, and my girls are identical twins.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
there's
not
lots of multiples. My grandma had cousins that were triplets. So there's several multiples on my dad's side of the family.
okay. So when you found out that you were pregnant with twins, was it
No,
total shock?
no, it wasn't. And this is so funny. So I watched your one of the other episode with the other mom that had twins.
Yeah,
That you just
Holly.
okay. And she was telling her story, and so I was thinking about mine. And Axel was little. He was like preschool age. He was like 3 when we found out we were pregnant. And like you do, you say like, "Oh, do you think it's a boy or a girl?" You ask the siblings or whatever. And he was like, "It's sisters. There's 2 babies, and it's sisters." And he knew. And
What?
and my dad's a twin, so you're kind of like, it might happen. So yeah, whenever they said there was 2 babies, I was like, oh, I don't know. I suspected because I mean, he didn't just say it one time. Like anytime somebody would ask him, he was like, yeah, yeah,
That's crazy.
it is crazy. I know.
Okay, so you've mentioned Axel a couple of times, and your kids, like even Gunner's name is spelled differently than you typically see it. Like it's usually AR, at least how I've seen it, and Gunner's
Yes.
is ER.
Yes.
So when you named your kids or were thinking about names, where did your names come from, and what was the significance for you in these?
Okay, so Kelsey pretty much named all of our kids.
Okay.
Kelsey's my husband, for those of you who don't know. And Gunner was just like a name. So Nordvold is Norwegian, and Kelsey's part of his family's Norwegian. And so he just was like, always really liked that name and thought it was a cool name. So that's where Gunner came from. And I spelled it with an ER because it's actually like Gunnar. Like that's like in Norway, that's how it would be said. It would be
Okay.
said like Gunner. And I was like so afraid people would make fun of him, which is, I was young, like I just think I would have named it, I would have spelled it AR now, but whatever. Anyway.
Okay.
And then Axel, I was just looking for another Norwegian name that I liked. And with all of our kids, as soon as we agreed on a name, like we just didn't talk about it anymore. We're like, we both like it. Okay, we're good. Yeah.
That's
Yep.
actually, I mean, you didn't offer that as advice, but it's actually like probably good advice because otherwise, how
Yeah, we
often
just
do you go
didn't
back and
discuss it
forth?
anymore.
Right.
So, yeah. So then,
But it's not spelled like when I hear Axel, I think wheel axle, and it's not spelled
yeah,
that
so
way.
it's also Norwegian. Axel is also a Norwegian name, and it's spelled Aksel. Yeah, so I like Googled Norwegian boy names or something like that, and it's an A. It's kind of at the beginning, and I was like, hey, I kind of like that name. And then all of our boys have 2 middle names too, because Gunner was not going to be Gunner; he was going to be Roan Roderick. And then Kelsey was like, I really like Gunner, so I just threw Gunner at the beginning. And then I was like, well, he has 2 middle names, so everybody has to have 2 middle names, but the girls don't.
Of course, naturally, yes.
And then the twins, Kelsey wanted to name them Coral and Turquoise, which he's Dene, he's Navajo, and that's like silver and gold to them, culturally. And I was like, oh, it's really pretty, but I can't, let's keep shopping, And then Aquila and Uriah are both names from the Bible. And he suggested, I had always actually really liked the name Uriah. Anyway, he suggested them, and I was like, how about we'll do Aquila Turquoise and Uriah Coral? And so that's their middle name.
Oh, that's a lovely compromise.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I didn't realize that. Okay.
So Bronte is it's Greek for the sound of thunder. So like Brontosaurus, Bronte.
Okay.
It's like the feminine version of Bronte.
Okay.
And when we first heard her little heartbeat, Kelsey was like, it sounds like thunder. And it was like really strong and like just like she is. And he was like, I wonder if I can find a name that has something to do with thunder. And so he found Veranti, and that's how she got that name. And then Brazos, there's the Brazos River. So it's the Arms of God River. Brazos means arms in Spanish. And it's in Texas. And there's mention of it in Lonesome Dove, which is like one of our favorite movies to watch. And so he was like, I really like that. And I was like, I really like it too. So every time he made a suggestion that I liked, except for Axel, I suggested Axel. I was like, okay. And then that's the baby's name. And you're right, Aquila, that was going to be their name, whether they were boys or girls.
Okay.
So
So
yeah.
it was just decided. When did you find out when they were born or before what you were having?
Oh no, I found out with all of them. They both of my boys were very unplanned. My oldest two. So I was like, let's minimize surprises. So and then obviously the twins were a surprise, you know.
Yeah.
And so also let's eliminate surprises here.
So did you said you have there's a 10-year age difference between you and your brother, and then was it 9 years between you and your sister?
Me and my sister, yeah.
Yeah. So you're in the middle there.
Oh no, I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest. You're the oldest.
Yeah, my parents split up when I was officially split up when I was 6 or 7, and then my mom remarried, and my dad had a long relationship with my sister's mom, and they had kids with. So between my parents, I'm the only one, and then my little brother we have the same mom, and my little sister, we have the same dad.
Got you. Okay. So what was kind of your concept of family when you go from being the oldest child but kind of an only child to having 6 kids?
I don't know, man. I didn't really have time to think about it, I guess.
That's true.
It was here we go, you're at the top of a roller coaster, you know, and you're like, oh God. And then you just you can't go back. So you just keep going forward. It's kind of, yeah. So yeah, because we went from 2 to 4 and then 5 and 6, you know,
right.
So it's, yeah.
Right. So you doubled your number of kids with one additional pregnancy, and then the others 2 followed shortly thereafter one another.
And my oldest 2 boys have been such a help. I'm so grateful for that gap between the twins and Gunnar and Axel, because they are such wonderful young men, and they are so helpful with their siblings, and they're going to be such good dads someday, or uncles, or whatever they do. But
all of the above.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So when you have 6 kids in the span of 10 years, I'm going to assume, correct me if I'm wrong, that only now it kind of feels like, okay, things are leveling out a little bit because you have the help of Gunnar and Axel. Whereas when Gunnar was 10 and Axel was 8, things might not have been where they are now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think really when it was just the twins and the older 2, that was not really that hard. It didn't feel like. I was a stay-at-home mom for the first time. I had never, ever in a million, and I was homeschooling them. I had never in a million years ever would have said, if somebody had told me I was going to be a stay-at-home mom homeschooling my kids, I would have been like,
you're cute.
You got the wrong girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then once Veranti showed up, that's when things got harder, it seemed like. Because the older 2, they didn't take care of themselves, but they kept themselves busy, you know, and they were at the age where they were independent enough from me that they didn't need me all the time. And I was just basically a milk cow. I was just nursing all the time. That's I just, for 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, actually, for more
than
4 years.
Yeah.
But with the twins, I mean, that was just all I was doing all the time, was nursing. So, yeah.
Okay, so you've mentioned it a couple times about just kind of surprise, here I am in motherhood.
Yeah.
Let's walk it back a little bit and tell me, I mean, I always feel, I'm just going to confess this to you. I always feel weird asking this way because I don't know another way to ask it. But the question is like, how did you enter into mother? Or how did you become a mom? Like we all know how it happens. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah.
But it just feels weird asking it that way. So
Yeah. Well, it was an accident.
it was
Me
unplanned.
and Kelsey did not know each other very well. And this was before we were saved, and we were both living very much in chaos. And we met July 3rd of 2008, and I was due July 3rd of 2009 with Gunnar. So it happened quite quickly. And I was home for the summer. I was going to school at Fort Lewis College in Durango, Colorado, and I was home for the summer when I met Kelsey. And something happened, and I ended up transferring to Black Hills State. And so I stuck around a little bit longer, and I found out I was pregnant on Halloween in the basement of the Silverado, which is a casino in Denver. That's where I worked. Oh, yeah. So that's how I came to find out about motherhood. And then, I freaked out, of course, and I moved home. And I actually ended up going to school here at the community college while I was pregnant. And then after Gunnar was born, I moved back out to Spearfish and I finished my undergrad there. And then I was pregnant with Axel when I graduated. I graduated in December and then I had him in February. Yeah. So.
Okay. Oh, so many things I want to follow up on. Okay. So because I know your life now.
Oh, yeah.
But you okay. I don't know where to go first. Let's do this. Let's go this way first. And then after we go this way, we'll take a turn and we'll go this way.
Okay.
So this way is you mentioned that before we were saved and you were living in chaos.
Yeah.
Gunnar is 14 years old. You and Kelsey have been married. How many years did you just celebrate recently?
Well, in June, it'll be 11 years.
Oh, why did I think you had a winter anniversary? Your winter anniversary is how long you've been going to church.
Yes, January.
Which, by the way, let's go a third direction here, is how I know you. We never even got that. So I know you because we go to the same church. And we had been going to the church for a while, and I would see you. For those of you who aren't watching the video, only listening to audio, Whitney's stinking gorgeous. And so I would always see this gorgeous woman walk in with this train of children behind her and kind of sit there. And I didn't know her name or anything, but one Sunday in particular, I just was so moved. And I
remember this.
I had never talked to her. I didn't even know your name, Whitney. I did not even know your name. I walked up to you and grabbed your arms which is funny because the episode I recorded just before this one, we talk about how I just grab people, and that's probably not great. That's probably not a great thing, and I should probably stop
this time. Yeah.
So I grabbed your arms and I started crying immediately, which also Whitney has no idea who I am. She doesn't know me personally. She doesn't know I'm a crier. She doesn't know why I'm grabbing her and crying in her face. And I was just like, I just felt led to, I don't know exactly what I said, but it was something along the lines of, I just felt led to tell you how beautiful it is to see you mother your family. And was such a blessing today. And I just wanted to bless you by telling you that.
It was such a blessing to hear that because it's hard being a mom of any kids, but 6 kids, it's really hard. You know? And thank you for the sweet compliments then and now. And it was so sweet. And I was like, at first I was like, is everything okay? Like I was kind of like concerned for you.
And also
like, what did she tell me?
For the listeners, Whitney is a counselor and a coach and all this thing. And so people crying in front of her is probably no big thing. But here comes this woman she's never seen, never talked to. She is grabbed by this woman. And but I was just choked up by it all. And so that's kind of how we met and then became friends after that point. So I do kind of want to talk about your entrance into motherhood, and it was chaotic. You and Kelsey were, I don't know, living ride or
Um,
die.
we were just selfish, just lost and selfish, and both hurt by our upbringing and relationships that we had been in, and we were looking for God in all these places where He wasn't.
Mm,
Um, and I had just come out of a really abusive relationship before I met Kelsey, and he was rodeoing hard and drinking hard and just like living life for the day,
mm,
kind of is how we were living at the time. Yeah. So it was, we were just lost and
mhm,
yeah, selfish. Those are the two words that like just come to mind when I think about who we were before we were saved. And we almost split up. Well, we did. We broke up a couple times since from the beginning of our relationship until we got married. And for like the fall before we got married, I was going to my counselor and complaining about the same thing over and over and over. And she said, okay, like you can come in here and keep talking about the same thing every week if you want to. Like I get paid whatever you talk about. But we're kind of at a choice point here. Like you can accept that this is just the way it is, or you can do something about it. And the something that I was going to do about it was leave Kelsey. And so I went home and I told him that and I said, blah, 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 and we were both looking for a different place to live. And for whatever reason, God started working. Well, not for whatever reason. He loved us and he's been there
yes,
all along.
yes.
But this is kind of like, he was just really started stirring in our hearts. And we were both looking for another place to live, but we were both like so desperate that we were like looking for churches. And we had both like had some Christian influence, sort of. But we had also both had a lot of traditional indigenous spiritual influence in our lives too.
Mm,
And so, for whatever reason, we both suggested, hey, let's go to church. One of us obviously did it first. And, like, wow, okay. And my mother in law was staying with us at the time. And she said, why don't you guys just go? I'll keep the kids. And it was the first Sunday after the 24 hours of prayer. And so it was not a normal service, but the worship was so beautiful. And you never got to meet Jasmine, but
mm, mhm,
I'm sure you've heard of her,
mhm.
and she has the voice of an angel. And she started singing something. I don't even remember what it was. And I'm just like bawling in the back row, closest to the door. Like, I'm going to get out of here as fast as I can when we're done, which we did. But people got up and shared their testimonies from the weekend of prayer. And I
Mhm,
really believe that somebody's prayer was what brought us to church that Sunday. I really, whenever I go and pray at that event, I always remind people like my family and the echo of the Holy Spirit that comes from us is a result of that 24-hour prayer weekend.
mm.
So yeah, and we've been there ever since. We were married about 6 months later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how has your mothering changed prior to having Jesus in your life
Mm.
versus now he is your life? How did your
Oh,
mothering change?
um, I would say that. Well, I was really, and I don't know, I don't want to speak for Kelsey. I don't know if he would agree with this, but I feel like I was really parenting alone, even though we were together.
Mm,
And so that that was probably the biggest change, was that I was no longer parenting alone. Like Kelsey changed. Like it was like, okay, okay, we'll see how long this lasts. Like I was, that's me. I'm like, and here we are 11 years later, and he's still a different person. And so I had a father to mother with, I guess,
mm,
after that point. And so I think I was really mothering from a place of, well, the word desperation again. I think like I was just
mm,
like working so hard all the time. Like I was working outside the home. Axel was only 3 weeks old when I had to go back to work because I had preterm labor with all of my pregnancies except for Brazos. and I had to be on bed rest. And so I had to use leave from my brand new job. And he was only 3 weeks old. My mother-in-law was living with us, thank goodness, so he could stay home with her. But yeah, he was tiny when I had to go back to work. So there was just this like exhaustion, really, that and a sense of like there's just never enoughness, which shifted. Like for Kelsey, like I said, it was like a lightning bolt. It was just like everything changed. And for me, it was more gradual. It wasn't like I was like, I'll, step into the shallow end. And he was like head first into the deep end. And so it was just very different for us. But yeah, does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes sense to me. And it's especially, you go from kind of flailing to a secure footing.
Yes. And I will say there was a lot of like, can I trust this? Like, is this for real? Just like I was saying about Kelsey's change.
Right.
After I would go from, this experience of like feeling at peace and at comfort. And then I would like kind of hop back and be like, wait, am I really okay? Is there really enough?
Right.
Is there really enough to go around, da, da, da. So, the moments of, is there enough have been less and shorter as the years have gone by. I still have them, if I'm honest, but not like I did or not as much as I used to.
Well, isn't that interesting too, where you doubted that? I'm going to draw a scriptural parallel here. You were doubting that, like, is it really enough? And in the garden, the first thing that the deceiver said to Eve was, did God really say?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so those parallels there, I think, are interesting.
Yeah.
The other way, the turn that I wanted to follow up with, when you were pregnant with Gunnar, you were in school.
Yes. I took 16 credits my final semester. I don't know how I was alive at the end of it, but yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let's psychoanalyze you for a minute, because you took 16 credits.
I do it a lot.
You're pregnant with Gunnar in school. It is 14.
Oh, no, I was pregnant with Axel.
Oh, with Axel.
And Gunnar was a baby. Well, Gunnar was 2, I think, when I got pregnant with Axel.
Okay, but you were in college when you got pregnant with Gunnar, though, right?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, I was home for the summer.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so this is where I'm going. You were in college, pregnant with Gunnar. It is 14 years later, and you are still in college.
Well, I took a few years off. No, I actually attempted my master's. This will be my 3rd attempt at my master's. The other 2 times was a different program, which was like, I was just not committed. The end game just wasn't a good enough payoff. And it clearly wasn't my thing, because doing this work that I do now, I feel like this is what I was made for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what I was getting to, because I know that you're still in school.
Yep. I've been chipping away at a master's for, it'll be 3 years next May when I graduate.
Chipping away. But girl, you're getting it done.
Yes. Yeah.
You're getting it done. And so proud of you for sticking through it, because I've only known you for about 3 years now, because I think it was spring. We moved here in 2020. I think it was spring of 2021 when I grabbed you in church. So it's been about 3 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, you've been at it the whole time. Proud of you.
I'm kind of addicted to learning. It's kind of, I really enjoy it. It's kind of a thing.
So what about your kids? Do your kids enjoy learning as well? Are they book nerds? Are they?
Gunnar is very academically inclined. School comes very easily to him. And he's curious and inquisitive, and like me, he's a verbal processor, and so he's like the kid that sits in the front row and asks questions, and everybody else is like, shut up. Like he's and he's like just genuinely curious. Axel, he loves math, and he loves Sarah McKinley as his history teacher. He loves learning from her. He is dyslexic though, and so it has required more effort from him.
Mm.
But the school that he goes to has been wonderful for him. I homeschooled him, and I just got to a point where like I didn't really know what to do, like how to help him.
Right.
Yeah, and the girls are, yes, they love school. Brazos is in preschool, and he some days he just wants to stay home and watch Paw Patrol, and some days he's okay with going. But he's quite bright, and he's quite articulate, um, like Gunner. So
Yeah.
yeah, they're all a little bit different.
So what you're also a very talented baker. You cook all the time. What is feeding your family like? And this is part 2 of that same question. How do you find the balance in providing sustenance for your family, but also finding joy in the cooking and the baking and what you're doing?
Yeah. Okay. So I have ADHD, diagnosed in my 30s. No, really, I do.
I I,
And
I know, but I was not expecting the answer to start there.
well, when people ask me like, gosh, you do all kinds of stuff, you do this and you do that and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, I just can't make up my mind. I have ADHD.
Yeah.
Okay? Like I do all the things. So I would say that cooking for other people who are not my family is actually way more enjoyable than my own family. I have some kids that are picky and some kids that like I have a couple kids, I won't name names, that are like, ew, this is gross. I don't want to eat that. Okay. I'm just gonna go cry in the bathroom now. And then I have others that are like, this is really good, mom. Like will choke it down and be like, thank you for dinner, mom. You are a saint. So, um, you can guess whoever you think those are if you want to.
I'm just going to interject here. Did you ever
Yeah.
see the video on the internet floating around of that little girl who tried and she
Yes.
literally
And as
was
a
gagging?
therapist, it was heartbreaking to me for her to be like, she's like in tears almost. And she's got a smile on her face. And I was like, no, she's like, no, mom, it's good. So as a therapist, I'm like, how invalidating for this poor child. Like she's going to have issues.
Oh,
Also,
bless.
I have a couple kids who do the same thing. So, I mean,
Okay.
no,
Okay. I derailed us there.
yeah.
So back to you finding balance in it. You've got both sides of the spectrum. They love it, they hate it.
I don't think there is a balance. I think you just go hard with what you can when you can. I mean, like today I had the day off and I cleaned the whole upstairs of my house. Will it be clean tomorrow or the next day? No, it won't. It won't. Does laundry pile up? Thank God we have a laundry room. Don't even, we lived in a single wide trailer for a while there with 3 bedrooms with 6 people. Ugh,
Right.
no laundry room there. But we have a laundry room, and sometimes laundry gets piled up for several days or it never makes it to the dresser or whatever, but you just do what you can when you can and ask for help. I ask for help. I used to be not a very good asker for help. When I was pregnant with the twins, though, I was on mandatory bed rest for almost the whole second half of my pregnancy, and I got really good at asking for help. So God was like, "You're going to learn something here, sister," and I did. So yeah.
So that leads me to another question then, because you talked about earlier being on bed rest basically for all of your pregnancies
Mm-hmm.
and you had ADHD then, just didn't know
I
it,
have had
I'm
it
going
my
to guess.
entire life. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So how mentally, as a mom of young kids, 6 within 10 years, you are on bed rest while there are other kids running around,
Mm-hmm.
how mentally do you not just lose it?
You do.
Because there's
You do.
okay,
You just lose it.
fair enough.
People ask me like, I don't know how you do it. I would go crazy if I was you. And I'm like, I go crazy all the
Yeah.
time. Like it's, you know, and one thing like ADHD I have what's called inattentive ADHD, which is not like hyperactivity on the outside. It's like hyperactivity in my brain.
Hmm.
So, my mind's just like going all the time, which looks like anxiety sometimes and is. And, sometimes it's just me like coming up with all kinds of cool ideas and being creative. It changes. But, I mean, I did. I went crazy. And when I was pregnant with the twins, 6 weeks of that, I was in Sioux Falls. That was hard. That was when I got airlifted to Sioux Falls when I was pregnant with Axel. For two
Okay,
weeks, I was there.
so you're saying for 6 weeks you were in Sioux Falls. You mean in the hospital, not just like
Yes.
on a trip.
Yes.
In the hospital for 6 weeks.
Hmm. Well, I
And you
was in
have,
the hospital, and then they let me out into this like it's called Welsh Family Village. It's like Ronald McDonald House kind of, but
okay.
and then they'd put me back in the hospital, and then they'd let me come out for a couple days, and then I'd go in to get for an OB appointment, and they'd be like, "You're gonna have a baby any day." And I'd be in a hospital for 4 days and not have a baby or have babies. So yeah,
So in the hospital off and on for 6 weeks, and you've got two other boys at that time.
yes, thank God for my mother-in-law.
Yeah.
My cousin, my first cousin, she's like really more like a sister to me and maybe like a second mom, really. She really stepped up. My mother in law, Kelsey, obviously,
Yeah.
um, and my niece. Um,
So as we wrap up here, I think that would be a really good place to have you share your thoughts on the importance of community in motherhood.
oh my
Um,
goodness.
what has that meant to you, and how would you coach others to find it?
Okay, so I think community, especially, I mean, I shouldn't even say especially when you have as many kids as I do, because honestly, like I'm thinking of somebody that I work with that has a new baby and she's away from her family. This is her partner's home. She's living in her partner's hometown. She doesn't have her family here. And I just think about how she only has one baby. It's her first baby, though. Like how important is it that somebody comes and helps take care of that
Mm,
woman and that child, And I think asking, just get good at it. Don't be so prideful that you can't ask for help. Like when Brazos was born, I did my own meal train. I put a meal train out there and I said, I don't want to leave my bed when I bring this baby home. I even had Kelsey, we didn't have a TV in our bedroom. I had Kelsey put a TV in our bedroom for that postpartum period. I don't want to talk to nobody. Like, I don't want to look at nobody except for my baby. Like, I really, I did. And
yeah.
people showed up with meals because I put out the call and I said, hey, I need help. I need support. And I think, people who know me would say that I'm pretty authentic.
Hmm.
Um, and I think doing the work that you need to do to get comfortable with who you are so that the people around you can love you well is probably, and that's for all humans, not just mothers, but I think particularly for mothers because we carry so much that's just, I mean, we have to do all the things all the time. We have to be on all the time. And not all of us have, like, I mean, I'm really lucky. I have my mom that lives here and I have my mother in law and my husband's niece, our niece, and my husband's sister. And I have women in the church. Like Sarah threw me a huge baby shower, like ridiculous. And when you have multiples, people treat you like you're like a circus attraction or something. Like everybody wants to like ask you all the questions, and they like want to, but they just shower you with things, with love,
Mm.
and want to support you however they can. And I think just being honest about where you are and just not faking it. Just don't fake it so that people can love you and receive the love. Say thank you. Yes. Get rid of the pride.
I think that's so key. And also, even in those moments when we might feel like we don't know what we need, we don't know what
Mm.
kind of help we need. If you push the pride aside, there's so much. Yes, a friend of yours can fold your family's underwear.
I had a friend show up. I was having a hard time, and I don't remember how she knew, or I don't know what I did or whatever. She showed up with Papa Murphy's pizza and she washed my dishes for me. And the conversation I had with her while I was cooking this pizza, she didn't ask, what kind of pizza do you like? Nothing. She just went and got a couple Papa Murphy's pizzas, showed up at my house and said, I'm not leaving until you tell me what to do. And she did my dishes. And we just sat and visited. And it was so nice to have like another human being there with me. And
Yes.
another one that came and folded my laundry when I had the twins when she was a baby.
Yes. And what great encouragement and empowerment for us as moms to be that mentor and that friend to someone else.
Yes.
And to push our own pride aside. Like, it's one thing to push pride aside to ask for help. It's another thing to push pride aside to step into the mess where someone else is.
Yes. Yeah. Amen to
Yes.
that. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, girl.
The times where somebody just showed up without, and you know what? Those two women were not even like really close friends of mine. Like they're people who know me well and I've known for a long time, but they're not people I talk to every day or anything. They're
Yeah.
just people, they're the ones who showed up, and it was nice to have them show up. Yeah.
The best. The best.
Yeah.
Well, Whitney, you're also the best. And as
you.
we wrap up our podcast here, I also just want to throw out there to the listening audience, if you ever feel the urge to show up at my house with pizza and to do housework, I am here for it.
Yes, me too. Yeah. Like literally any day of the week. Please.
Oh, well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your motherhood journey. I have loved hearing all about it, and I guess, I'll see you Sunday.
Okay. All right.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of the Motherhood Experience podcast. To join our exclusive TME community, head on over to themotherhoodexperience.com/learn more. Be sure to follow The Motherhood Experience on Facebook and Instagram, and please leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment below, and we'll catch you next time.